Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and today we're making a video on something that I don't think any of us expected to be talking about this soon. However, it's happened. A major announcement from Celtic this afternoon in regards to a resignation at the club, in regards to a recruitment department which has been heavily criticised this season. Mark Lawwell has departed Celtic. It's official, and for some, this might be some fantastic news. So let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. Of course, we're trying to get as close to 50,000 subs as we can this year. So that's all down to you guys. If you could drop down below, hit both of those buttons. It's absolutely free. It would be much appreciated. But shall we get into this massive bombshell of a statement that was dropped by Celtic this afternoon? So there I was, trying to enjoy the first qualifying session of the 2024 F1 season, when Celtic decided to drop an announcement which we all anticipated happening at some point over the next few months, or at least we wanted to see happen over the next few months. But I don't think we expected it today on Friday the 1st of March. Here it is, the announcement in all its glory, released via CelticFC.com this afternoon. Celtic Football Club today have announced that Mark Lawwell, head of first team scouting and recruitment, and Joe Dudgeon, lead first team scout, have resigned from their positions and are leaving the club to pursue fresh challenges. Mark was recruited to the club by then manager Ange Postecoglou in May 2022 from his position of head of CFG scouting and recruitment within City Football Group's global structure, and Joe joined from the City Football Group in November 2022. Mark and Joe will be on a period of gardening leave. So there it is, the announcement after a few stories leaked in the mainstream press. It's kind of came out in outlets like the Daily Record and the Sunday Mail first, but then officially Celtic announced it around 4:10 this afternoon. The announcement that we've all been waiting for, something that we have been calling for. Mark Lawwell, the nepotism hire, you could say, has left the club after a very, I'm not going to beat around the bush, a very poor 2 years almost in charge of Celtic's recruitment. It has been criticised heavily. As recent as the January transfer window, the signings that Celtic have been making, the scouting that we have been doing hasn't been good enough. We've sort of been running on fumes when it comes to the squad at the minute. This was something that had to be addressed and had to be changed if we valued the future of our football club. So, Mark Lawwell's out the door. What next? Find it interesting that he's actually resigned from his role rather than, being sacked or whatever. Expected when his old man is the chairman of the club. I didn't think they would have the guts to actually sack him, but I think this is something that behind the scenes has probably been discussed quite heavily in recent weeks due to the heavy criticism that both Peter and Mark Lawwell have been facing. Now, for a lot of people, they're hoping and holding on to the thought that this might be the one of two, and maybe Peter Lawwell will be next to leave the club. All I can say towards that is I wouldn't hold your breath. I don't anticipate Peter Lawwell leaving anytime soon, as much as I would like to see change in that department as well. But this was something that had to be done. The recruitment has just simply not been good enough, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. Celtic need to get their act together. We have been so below par when it comes to the quality of signing that you would expect at Celtic Football Club that someone had to be held accountable. The appointment of Mark Lawwell was one which was met with criticism in the first place because of his second name, but originally we were convinced and we were told that it was Ange Postecoglou's choice. It was Ange Postecoglou who wanted Mark Lawwell in the role. Still to this day, you can have your own opinion on this. This isn't me speculating or whatever, or telling you this is what you should believe. Still to this day, I have my doubts that that's the truth. I remember earlier on, I think it was at the AGM earlier on in the season, at the AGM I'm sure it was, they said you could even ask Ange now and he'll tell you it was his appointment, it was him that wanted Mark Lawwell. But the hire that was Mark Lawwell was something for me that just reeked in sheer nepotism. It was somebody who, judging off the work that he's done since he came into the club, was never fit for purpose at Celtic. And I know everybody will big up his time at the City Football Group. I'm sure he had a bit of time at Girona as well, over in Spain, who are, of course, doing really well at the minute. But we didn't see any first-hand evidence that Mark Lawwell was cut out for the job at Celtic. His track record of signings has been incredibly poor. In a time where we have been kind of dragging on poor appointments at that role, you know, we go back to Lee Congerton, and then we go to Nick Hammond, two guys who were also heavily criticised for their job as the head of recruitment, to then make it 3 duds in a row at that kind of position at the club is really poor of Celtic. And this appointment is one that I think a lot of fans have found unacceptable and unforgivable, and it's the reason why we continuously ask for change at the highest level at Celtic Football Club. Was it his second name that got him the job? We'll truly never know. It's not as if we're going to get the honest truth about it. As far as we've been told, it was Ange Postecoglou's choice, but he's still here under Brendan Rodgers. He hasn't helped recruit well enough in this season where we are now, you know, struggling. We're second in the table. This was something that had to happen. The future of the football club had to be looked out for. And whether it was Mark Lawwell's choice or not to depart Celtic Football Club today, it's a decision that I think many fans are rightfully meeting with a lot of joy, because we needed change so badly. Both Brendan Rodgers and Michael Nicholson have commented on the matter. Here was their comments in the statement. Brendan Rodgers said, as part of the club's recruitment team, Mark and Joe have worked tirelessly to bring success to Celtic, and I would like to wish them both the very best for the future. And then, of course, Chief Executive Michael Nicholson added, everyone at Celtic thanks Mark and Joe for their contribution and dedication to the club, and we wish them both every success moving forward. It's got to be interesting to hear what is maybe said now from the manager in the coming weeks, both when he speaks about Mark Lawwell, but also about moving forward. How much of an input will Brendan Rodgers have when it comes to the next appointment, to the next head of recruitment? How should that be handled? And obviously Brendan Rodgers is someone who was very critical of the summer transfer window and how he thought it was still lacking so much quality. But then at the end of January, when he begged for quality, he was apparently happy with the 2 additions we made. So this isn't a time for two-faced Rodgers. This is a time for truth, honesty. Tell the supporters the way it is and tell the supporters exactly what he wants. We'll come on to the appointment and what we have to do moving forward in a moment. But shall we look at the track record of Mark Lawwell over the windows he was here? I feel like there will be the odd Celtic fan who comes onto the video and into the comments section saying that we have been far too harsh on Mark Lawwell, that some of the, what they would call, abuse is unmerited. But really, you can't fault Celtic supporters for being overly critical in the work that we've done. This was the first couple of windows under Mark Lawwell's kind of guidance in the window. And taking away the loan players, it doesn't reflect greatly on him. Of course, and when I say the loan players, I mean the players that we signed permanently. So when you take Cameron Carter-Vickers, Dyson Maeda and Jota away from this list, it doesn't look great, does it? Alexandro Bernabe, who we spent almost £4 million on, is arguably one of the worst footballers I've ever seen. Sead Haksabanovic, who was recommended by an agent and came in and flopped, as much as I love him. Yuki Kobayashi, who was so far out his depth. And I honestly, Oliver Abildgaard, don't get me started on that one. That was a bizarre one altogether. His loan deal ended up being cut short, if I remember rightly. And then, honestly, you could maybe add Owen to the mix here when it comes to bad signings. There was a lot of money spent on him. He's not really hit the ground running at Celtic yet. Yeah, he's still young and there has been glimpses of potential. But generally, in that first season, we weren't handed a great deal of quality to add on to what Ange Postecoglou was building. We got the signings of Alistair Johnson, of course, who's came in, and this season hasn't really kicked on, but he's been generally a good addition to the side. We, of course, got Aaron Moy. But Aaron Moy, once again, strikes me more of a player that Ange Postecoglou already knew and wanted anyway. Doesn't seem like Mark Lawwell was maybe the one who managed to make that happen. Tomoki Iwata, of course, in recent weeks has started coming good, so I'll leave him out. But I think there's more bad than good there in that first season of work from Mark Lawwell. A lot of Benjamin Siegrist was another one who's a little bit questionable because he's came in and really added nothing to the side. But I don't want to be too harsh on that because he was always going to be a backup keeper behind Joe Hart anyway. It's really when you get on to this season where things start to look worse. Because this is the list of players that we've signed in the 23-24 campaign. And, yeah, I don't really need to get started, do I? We know exactly what we're dealing with. We know exactly how poor it's been, how nonsensical it's been compared to what the manager was looking for. He's not used certain players, so there's been that disconnect somewhere in the working between Mark Lawwell and Brendan Rodgers. There's not an awful lot that's made sense. Of course, we've been lucky that Adam Ida has come through in the January window and shown quality early doors. But you look at the other signing that we made in January, Nicholas Kuhn, who must have been part of the scouting network and somebody that they were looking at. Right now, he's looking like a total dud. So, generally, over the course of these 2 seasons, the recruitment has not been good enough. And we've been rightfully, I think, calling for change in that department. I don't know if I trust the current Celtic board to make the right appointment moving forward. That's where my biggest problem lies now. In the first place, Mark Lawwell probably shouldn't have got the job, and we know why he did. I feel like there's an old pals act that's been going on far too long within the club. I don't trust the board to make the right appointment. I think there has to be changes, not just in the recruitment department, but everywhere at boardroom level and in the football side of things. You know, there could be changes as well. But this is a massive opportunity for them to do the right thing, to do their due diligence. They've been given time to get things sorted for summer. We're on the 1st of March. Ideally, we have someone coming in maybe by, you know, the start of April, halfway through April, to get work started for the summer window. But we've got a bit of time here to go out and do our due diligence and make the right appointment. And if they don't do that, this board is not fit for purpose. I mean, you could argue, and I would be inclined to agree that they're not fit for purpose at this moment in time, no matter what happens with this appointment. But this is really a huge test for them now, because we have appointed dud after dud after dud. As I've already mentioned, Nick Hammond, Lee Congerton, Mark Lawwell, all 3 of them, the recruitment, absolute bollocks. And maybe a large part of that is down to the fact that the board just don't want to back these guys to the signings they really want to make. But we need better appointments. We need to do this right. Because we're a team who should be running Scottish football. We've got the facilities to do that. We've got the financial backing to do that. We should be going out there to get some of the best people in the game that are in this role. So we've got this time now to assess, to do the interview process, to find somebody. It can't be an old pal act. We can't be appointing somebody who used to be the personal butler to Dermot Desmond 10 years ago, or one of his fucking employees from London City Airport who put bags on airplanes. We need to be appointing somebody who's proven, got a good track record, and is going to take Celtic forward. That's the important next steps for Celtic Football Club and when making this new head of recruitment appointment. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of months in watching how that develops. Just to finish off, you know, I'm glad that this has happened today, because I feel like we needed that freshness. We needed change. The recruitment hasn't been good enough. Obviously, I wish everybody who loses their job the absolute best to go on and keep forging on in the game and all the rest of it, but Celtic needed this change. And I'm glad that this statement came out today. So, yeah, there's the big news for Friday afternoon that we maybe didn't expect. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time.